Oh, hamstring. Up. Sniper, take the other picture.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you can formulate opinions without having true facts.
I'm telling you, think about it logically for just a second.
Dear Reds fans, welcome back to the Zebra Zillionaires. It was a tough one yesterday.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Tom Brenneman.
Well, good morning. A pleasant good Thursday morning to each and every one of you. We welcome you, as always, to Off the Bench, presented by our good friends at United Dairy Farmers. I'm Tom Brenneman. Casey, Lindsay, good morning.
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing?
Doing good. We're doing good.
Good. How about you boys? Reed, Zebra?
I'm doing all right. Xavier obviously lost yesterday, but I'm doing all right. I'm doing fine.
I'm doing great.
You guys were both at the game last night.
That's right.
We were.
Big time.
Big league.
It was a good game. We'll get into more.
We'll get into it for sure today. Mouse Cop's already in a terrible mood this morning. I understand you ran into him yesterday.
I did run in. Listen, I walked right into Dana Gardens and
Dana Gardens.
I walked in there.
Big league operation.
It's a dimly lit bar,
to say the least.
and they open up the door. And
like
Mouse Cop
dungeon.
walked in, and it was like the light of God walked in there. It was just bright as can be because everything shines upon Mouse Cop. So
I mean, he's all killing our show today. He's upset. Sorry, Mouse Cop. We are what we are. We come your way Monday through Friday, 10 to 12. You can join us on YouTube/Chatterbox Sports. We broadcast live on X, CBox Sports. Or if you'd rather join us in podcast form, and that was the only way to see us yesterday. We have our fingers crossed today.
That's right.
all we can do.
Spectrum.
We'll light some candles, have a little seance for Spectrum to work in here.
That's exactly right. Well, like some of you, when I was growing up, you never wanted to be referred to as a goat. That was normally a reference to a person or persons who simply messed something up, primarily in sports. In today's world, of course, GOAT has become an acronym for greatest of all time. It's overused more times than not, but not today. What we have seen in the last 24 hours will go down as one of the most remembered full day in terms of hours in sports history. GOAT describes Nick Saban. He is the greatest college football coach of all time. 7 national championships, 6 at Alabama. He announced his retirement yesterday. At 72 years young and 17 seasons in Tuscaloosa, Saban walks away with 292 career wins, 6th all-time in college football history. That stops through Toledo, Michigan State, won a national title at LSU, 6 of them at Bama. He never once, not one time, had a losing season. Then there's the greatest coach in the history of the National Football League. Just this morning, Adam Schefter from ESPN reporting that Bill Belichick is leaving New England after 24 years as Patriots head coach. He won 17 division titles, most all time. 9 conference championships, most all time. And, of course, 6 Super Bowls, most all time. GOAT, G-O-A-T. And under the radar in all this, there's Pete Carroll. He announced after 14 seasons as head coach in Seattle, he's leaving the Seahawks. Carroll won 181 games in the NFL. He joins Jimmy Johnson and Barry Switzer as the only coaches to win a Super Bowl and a national college football championship. Think about this for just 1 minute. I was reading this today. Tell me this isn't amazing that we're talking about these 3 guys, okay, leaving the same day. Nick Saban succeeded Pete Carroll as a secondary coach at Ohio State all the way back in 1980. When Belichick was the head coach in Cleveland before he went to New England, Saban worked for him with the Browns for 4 years. And then in 2000, Belichick replaced Carroll as head coach in New England.
Did you see the Cleveland Browns tweet yesterday about Nick Saban? They wish Nick Saban a happy retirement and said, to our 1995 defensive coordinator. I thought that was funny.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right. On the field, the NFL playoffs, as we know, kick off this weekend. We will talk with Mike Defabo from The Athletic in just a moment. He covers the Pittsburgh Steelers. And in about 40 minutes from now, our buddy VOCH Lombardi, he covers the Cowboys, as you know, will join us to preview their game against Green Bay. College basketball, we mentioned a wild one last night at Cintas Center. Xavier falls to number 4 UConn, the defending champs, 80-75. Really weird game. Huskies would open up a big lead, X would come back. UConn big run, X would come back. Bottom line is, Mouse Cop, Muskies are 7-8 on the season. They're 1-3 in the Big East. Turns out UConn is the only team ranked in the top 4 not to lose this week. First Purdue, then Houston. And last night, UCF beat number 3 Kansas, 65-60. I got to really wonder how good Kansas is.
I think they're good, but listen, Tom, when you go up against an American Conference team, it's going to be tough sledding.
Throw out the record books.
Throw out the record books.
Is what Kansas has done, we talk a lot about the Big 12 and how great it is. It's the best college basketball conference in the country. Kansas has won that conference for like 18 straight years. Is that the best streak going on in sports right now? Because that's absolutely incredible that they win that league every year despite it being the best league in college basketball.
Well, they got it going on. I mean, they're one of the top 3 programs in the history of college basketball. And they got a great coach. Great coach. We talked about the top 4. UConn wins. Number 5 lost last night. Tennessee to Mississippi State by 5 points. TCU, they'll be here next week. That's UC's next home game. They've got a good team. They beat number 9 Oklahoma last night, 80-71. Butler knocks off Marquette. Marquette is 2-3 in the Big East. And number 15, Wisconsin rallies late to beat Ohio State in Columbus, 71-60. Casey, let me know when we have Mike with us.
Yep, I'll let you know.
And we will get to him. Look, we're going to circle back because we have Mouse Cop all worked up. And for those of you that don't know Mouse Cop, he's been a regular, and we're thankful that he is.
We love Mouse Cop.
On this show on a regular basis. But, you know, we'll get to the Xavier game later. Because you are truly looking at, and I really don't think you could argue it. I don't think, or maybe you guys can, that Nick Saban is the greatest college coach in the history of college football.
Undoubtedly.
And Bill Belichick is the greatest coach in the history of the National Football League.
Undoubtedly.
And they both are gone within 24 hours.
The Nick Saban thing was incredibly shocking. I think we all saw Bill Belichick coming. I think just we kind of knew that this was going to happen with Bill Belichick. There's been rumors flying. It's kind of run its course in New England. He's going to get another chance to coach if he still wants to coach because, like we said, he's the GOAT.
Yep.
The Nick Saban stuff is shocking, and I wonder if there's an underlying story or if he's just sees the current state of college football and it's not the same sport that he came in and started coaching 20 plus years ago or 40 plus years ago, but a head coach for 20 plus years, and just said, listen, I'm done. I'm out. I've done all I can do. My legacy can't get any better for the most part. I mean, he wins another national championship. His legacy puts another trophy, but his legacy is already the GOAT. You can't be the GOAT of GOATs, right? So. Yeah, it's incredibly shocking, and the fact that it happened in 24 hours is even more so.
Some of those older guys, Saban recently, Kirk Ferentz at Iowa, guys that have been around a long time that have incredible respect around college football, have both talked at length about not liking this whole NIL thing.
Right.
And the transfer portal. It has added layer after layer after layer of burdens on a head football coach in college. And I just have a feeling at the end of the day, Saban will share at length that has something to do with it, both the transfer portal and NIL. All right. Mike is with us finally here from Pittsburgh, PA. Going to be making his way to Buffalo tomorrow. Thanks for joining us, my friend. How's everything with you? What did you think about the Bill Belichick news?
Well, I think it's interesting because the Patriots played the Steelers earlier this year. And there were a lot of parallels between these two teams in terms of like where they were at in their seasons and question marks about filling the shoes of Hall of Fame quarterbacks. And ultimately here you have Mike Tomlin was on the hot seat. Now, was able to rally the Steelers back to the playoffs where Bill Belichick gets fired. So I think it's an interesting case study with these two guys in terms of like patience when it comes to teams and how long coaches want to hang on and keep doing it. And obviously, Mike Tomlin still has a passion for it. He still has a fire for it, but things went a little differently for Bill Belichick.
All right, let's get into Tomlin for a minute because the last time you were kind enough to join us, and we appreciate your time again today, so thank you. They were getting ready to play the Bengals again. They win that game in dominant fashion, and then they go on to nail this thing down and get to 10 wins. It's amazing how quickly it can change, in a 3-week time frame. We saw it swinging against Tomlin, and then 3 weeks later, it swings back the other way. 10-7 on the year. You got to give it up to the guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. Since I was on your show, that was really the inflection point in the Steelers season.
Yeah.
The Steelers were spiraling the drain. They had just lost 3 games in a row, including back-to-back games against the 2-win Cardinals and the 2-win Patriots. So a lot of people fairly were talking about Mike Tomlin and his job security at that time. And what was interesting to me is that Tomlin was coming off this no-show performance against the Colts. He was down to desperation. He started Mason Rudolph, who started the year 3rd on the depth chart. I'm not sure anybody going into that game thought this is going to be our savior, yet here the Steelers are in the postseason. So, I think it just kind of is who Mike Tomlin is at this point, where it seems like every time that you feel like, yep, the season's over. I think that the Athletic and our projections, the Steelers had a 4% chance of making the playoffs at that point. Now here they are playing a playoff game. So it definitely speaks to Mike Tomlin as a leader. But again, I'll say this. The Steelers have not won a playoff game since 2016. And even though Mike Tomlin is a great coach and does do an incredible job of somehow scratching and clawing his way to a winning season, in Pittsburgh, fans still want that playoff win. Now, I'm not sure there's great expectations for Mason Rudolph, a 10-point underdog against Buffalo. But, at some point, the Steelers have to get over that hump.
I got to tell you, I'm sitting here watching, and they put up the numbers, and I know it goes back to Matt Canada, and I know Kenny Pickett got hurt, and Trubisky came in there for a while. I think with Trubisky and Pickett, they were 7-7. They're 3-0 now with Rudolph. The passing yards per game, the points per game have just completely blown up. Look, they got the game this weekend, but has this perhaps changed the mind of the coaching staff, the fan base, the media, the locker room, that maybe looking ahead to next year, and we'll get to this weekend's game in a minute, but, I mean, does Rudolph get a legitimate chance to start next year?
We'll have to wait and see. So he's on the final year of his contract, and interestingly, any team in the league could have had him last year. I just did a big profile on him for The Athletic, and I talked to his dad, and quite literally, he sat down at the kitchen table with his dad, and they were working on a resume. And Mason was thinking, do I want to go into commercial real estate, or am I going to be playing football next year? And somewhat out of nowhere, he got this call from the Steelers, ends up 3rd on the depth chart, rises up. So, I always felt like he was better than a 3rd-string afterthought. And it was surprising to me that 31 other teams felt like they had a better answer at a backup quarterback. Like, I don't think that he's some great savior. I think that some of the stats are a bit misleading. But, I do think that he could be a reliable player and a reliable backup. And that's what's really the thing here is that Mason had an opportunity. He's been sitting on the bench. Last year, he didn't even dress he dressed for 1 game all season, but he capitalized on his opportunity and completely changed the trajectory of his career. Had this not happened, I think there's a very real possibility he could be out of the league. Now, at a minimum, I think he's going to be a backup, but I think that there's a chance that the Steelers look at it and even consider giving him an opportunity to compete for the starting job.
All right, let's talk about this weekend. The weather, predictably is going to be brutal. Last I looked, they were talking about constant winds at 25 miles per hour, gusting up to 50 miles per hour in Buffalo. I start looking at things like that, and I say to myself, Mike, this is where any sort of thing can happen. And we know how well the Steelers run the ball or can run the ball. With weather like that, I feel like it gives them a fighting chance. Am I off base on that?
No, you're absolutely right. When I look at this game, if this was a beautiful 50-degree day in Buffalo, Josh Allen can air the ball out, I would give the Steelers zero chance. I would bet, I think the line right now is 10. I would take the Bills and think that they would be able to cover something like that. But when you throw weather into the equation, that only can help the Steelers because they have, I think, one path to victory, and it's pretty obvious. The Bills are 28th in rushing defense. The Steelers have become one of the best rushing teams in the league the second half of the season. Najee Harris is coming off back-to-back 100-yard games. He might be playing the best football of his career, and that's not hyperbole. Earlier this year, there were questions about whether he was overdrafted, whether he was worth the first-round pick. And now he's really come along and played his best football when it means the most. So that 100% is the formula for the Steelers. On the flip side, the other part of their formula is going to be how many times can you turn Josh Allen over? When does Josh Allen turn the football over? And where on the football field does he turn the football over? Because he's going to.
Yep.
He's second in the league in turnovers. So if it's a wet day, it's a sloppy day, windy day, not only is he not going to be able to attack downfield, that ball security becomes an issue. So I think you're spot on with that. I think the Steelers, I don't know what they got to do, bribe the weatherman or something like that, but that's one great way for them to have a fighting chance in this game.
All right, now no T.J. Watt in this game. Some would say the best defensive player in the National Football League, and you'd have a hard time arguing. Plays the run, obviously a great pass rusher. Who's going to be expected to at least contribute in his absence for this game? And I mean, it's stupid to ask you how big of a hit is it because you're asking about a team's best defensive player. But how big of a hit is it?
Yeah, I'll sum it up pretty easily. The Steelers historically are 1-10 without T.J. Watt. And last season, he was lost the first game of the year after they beat the Bengals in that crazy game. The Steelers were 1-6 after that when they lost T.J. Watt after he tore his pec. So, I mean, it's hard to overstate the importance. Not only do you lose a game-wrecking force who on any single down can change the entire complexion of the game, they also have to, when T.J. Watt's on the field, throw double teams his way, send a running back his way, leave a running back in, or leave a tight end in to block. So, without him, that is absolutely massive. Now, I will say this. General Manager Omar Khan and Assistant GM Andy Weidel made a very concerted effort to fortify the roster with quality depth. And at no position did they do a better job than outside linebacker. They signed a guy, Marcus Golden, who's like a 9-year veteran in this league. And when he gets the opportunity, he's not TJ Watt, but he could rush the passer. And then they also drafted Nick Herbig out of Wisconsin. And he's an undersized guy that some people thought might have to play off ball. He's really proven with his motor, his speed, and also some mentorship from former Badger TJ Watt that he can get to the passer. And people have actually been clamoring for, can we see more Nick Herbig? Can we get more Nick Herbig? Well, unfortunately, you got your wish, and you're going to get more of him. But I do think that it's a big, big test for the Steelers, but I think they're in a better position than they normally would be to handle it.
Mike, we appreciate your time as always. Safe travels up to Buffalo. How long a drive is it? You're driving up there?
I am, and if things go well, it should be like a 3.5, 4-hour drive. But
okay.
They are predicting massive snowstorms on the way up, massive storms on the way back. So it'll be a bit of a journey. We'll see how it goes.
All right. Godspeed, my friend. Please be careful. All right. Thanks for your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. You can check out all his stuff at theathletic.com. I talk about The Athletic all the time. They've gone out and hired guys like Mike and the best writers, sports writers in the country. And you get phenomenal coverage. So, I mean, you can be – and look, there aren't a lot of Steeler fans in Cincinnati, but if you are a Steeler fan in Cincinnati or if you're a fill-in-the-blank fan in Cincinnati, they have a beat writer on every team. They're not limited by space. And so you just get this incredible in-depth coverage of college sports, pro sports, Olympic sports. It really is. I said it earlier. I don't get any money from them. I pay for my own subscription. So, nothing going on here. No payola. So, but if you're really into sports, even a late Christmas present. Maybe you screwed up. You're kind of feeling bad. Is it too late to kind of get that right? Or maybe you were late on your wife. Maybe not wife, but maybe you were, your buddy of yours. His birthday and you forgot about it or something like that. So, subscription to that might be a good idea.
I think I'm going to get my wife a subscription to The Athletic for Valentine's
That'd be good.
Day. I think
she would really appreciate
I think
that.
she
That
would
or
love
a blender. Those always go over big.
Yeah, blender.
Yeah.
If I got Mariana a Ninja blender, she actually would be excited about that.
I have a running gag with my mom. I give her some sort of kitchen appliance every Christmas, and she always throws it out immediately.
Why?
Throws it out? Well, send it to me. I'll take it. Mine are all breaking down.
Is it a low end?
It started
kitchen
innocently.
appliance?
It started innocently. Like it started with I gave her a mug one year, and then it just kept progressively getting worse. I think we got to a potato carver or something like that. Potato peeler, and it keeps going, and then she just throws it out.
Fair enough. I don't know if that's an appliance, but yeah.
Okay, so we have a lot to get to. We got VOCH coming up in about 20 minutes from now. He'll be on at 10:40 to talk about the Cowboys, and we're going to get into later in the show what we said we were going to do yesterday before we had some technical problems, and that is I'm going to rip off 1 through 14 who I think has the best chance to make the Super Bowl. Number 1 being the best chance, 14 being the worst. And you guys are going to pick that apart.
That's right.
Fair?
That's
You
fair.
got the list ready to go and everything?
Yes,
Yeah.
we have the list, and Tom, we're going to eat it alive. It doesn't.
I'm
stand
not
a
surprised
chance.
by that.
It doesn't stand a chance.
Okay. And again, for those of you that were unable to be with us, we weren't able to be with you. The thinking on this was, obviously, you start with who has the best team. I think it's pretty safe to say that as we sit here today, that the 2 teams that aren't playing this weekend are not playing for a reason.
Correct.
Because they're the best teams. Baltimore in the AFC, 49ers in the NFC. Okay? Then what I try to think of was, okay, not only who I think fills in after them as the best teams, but also trying to figure in playoff experience, where their games are going to be played. I made reference yesterday. Cleveland, for example. I think Cleveland is a really good team capable of winning the Super Bowl. They only lost 5 games all year. Well, 6 the last game. It didn't matter against the Bengals. But when they played their horses. But they would have to win 3 straight games on the road in the playoffs. And I don't know, ultimately, if they're going to be able to. It makes it a lot more difficult. So, for example, I think Cleveland is better than Buffalo. But as an early sneak preview, I have Buffalo ranked higher than Cleveland. Because Buffalo could have 2 games at home this weekend against the Steelers, and then next weekend against whoever wins and whoever doesn't. Right. So 2 in a row in Buffalo without weather, and then weather wouldn't bother them if they have to go to Baltimore, right? I mean, it'd be a break, in fact, to go to Baltimore.
Right.
Right. So, that's what we tried to do. We figured in the teal uniforms into this thing.
You figured in how tough sledding it is to play the Steelers.
I tell you, I all of a sudden think that might be a game. We're going to get into our picks tomorrow. But I really think if the weather's as bad as Mike was just talking about and what we've been reading about, and you and I did this drill yesterday about how bad it's going to be in Buffalo, how bad it's going to be in Kansas City.
Yeah,
I mean, brutal cold. Brutal cold. 10, 15, 20 below wind chill. The high in Kansas City for this weekend is 9. And remember, that is a night game. So, it's going to be down to 2 or 3 or 0.
0, probably.
Right?
It's
And
gonna be
then
negative.
you mix in the wind, and here we go. How well can you throw the ball? The Buffalo thing is what I thought of. Because when they used the word, I think it was constant, a constant wind at 25 miles per hour. Huge snowstorm. Winds gusting up to 50. Now, the last game I remember something like that happening, ironically, involved Buffalo when they played New England. The game where New England, last year during the regular year, New England did not throw a pass in the game or didn't complete a pass in the game.
Yes. they were
Ran the
offensive.
ball like 50-something times and won the game.
Right.
They had no business on the field with Buffalo last year.
Bengals beat the Bills in a snowstorm.
Yeah. Yeah, but, it wasn't like wind crazy.
Correct.
Yeah. But, I really think that this weather is going to give Pittsburgh a chance to win this game. Anybody that thinks that Pittsburgh's going to be a pushover, they haven't been watching them. They look like a different team with Rudolph in there, and he just mentioned Najee Harris. People wanted to run him out of town, me included, about 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Both teams, the Steelers and the Bills, fired their offensive coordinator about 7 weeks ago.
Yep.
Buffalo's, 6-1 since that time, and the Steelers have come on as of late, but I don't know, Tom. I have a hard time believing the Steelers team, no offense to Lindsay in the room, I have a hard time believing the Steelers team is going to beat a charging Bills. I have a very hard time believing if the Miami Dolphins go into Kansas City with a negative wind chill and beat the Chiefs, I will rescind everything I've said in the past year about the Kansas City Chiefs. Everything. Because I just can't see the Dolphins in their teal jerseys showing up to Kansas City and winning that game.
Teal.
TJ Watt not being there is going to be the difference. If they don't have him, they don't have a chance. I did believe in them somewhat in a defensive game. Josh Allen is turnover prone, so if he throws 3 picks in a game, the Steelers can win. But what? You don't think that's
no? CJ Effler said Hamilton gets hit with bullets, not snow.
Oh my! See, you did that to your. Don't ever get on me and Elliot ever again.
I wasn't gonna say
ever again.
I had a reaction to that chat. It made me giggle, and Elliot called me out and said,
Tom's guy, Mr. Balls is here. I think if the Steelers are able to make Josh Allen throw his usual 2 interceptions and 1 fumble, they have a chance. I don't believe in Mason Rudolph whatsoever. I really don't believe in the Steelers, but at some point you have to look at a team with 10 wins and say they're doing something right. So I don't think it'll be a 10-point win for the Bills. I think it'll be closer than people think.
If you're wondering about Josh Allen in the postseason, he's played in 8 games. He's 4-4. So in 19, he lost in the first game. Didn't throw a touchdown or a pick. In 2020, he played in 3 games. They got to the championship game. He went 2-1, threw a total of 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. The next year in 21, they won a game, lost a game. He threw 9 touchdowns, no picks.
Yeah, that was.
And then last year, they win 1, they lose to the Bengals. He throws 3 touchdowns, he throws 3 picks. So in his 8 playoff games, Josh Allen has 17 touchdowns against 4 interceptions, and 3 of those were last year.
There's this thought that the Bills.
He's also lost 2 fumbles and fumbled the ball 8 times. Only lost 2.
Yeah. Josh Allen turns the ball over a lot, but he also scores a lot of points. Listen, there's this idea that the Bills aren't very good in the postseason, and I'd ask this simple question: that over the past 3 years, how many teams have won more games than the Buffalo Bills in the postseason? The answer is the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the 49ers. That's it. So I don't know. It's not like
well, the last 4 years. I'm trying to think here for a second. Yeah, the Bengals have won 5. That's right.
5.
Okay.
And Kansas City's won more. And I believe the 49ers. I don't know about the 49ers, but I believe the 49ers have won more as well.
Okay.
But other than that, I don't think anybody has won more playoff games than the Buffalo Bills.
Well, the Eagles have to, right? They won 3 alone last year. Haven't they won at least?
They were the 1 seed. They won 1 game last year.
Oh, that's right. They got beaten in the Super Bowl. Forgive me.
2 games. 2 games.
Yep,
They won 2 games. So here's the thing: is the flack against Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens is a little deserving because Lamar Jackson hasn't shown up in the postseason. In 2019, they were the best team in the league, and he didn't look very good. He was the unanimous MVP, and he didn't look very good. The Ravens deserve a little bit of flack for what they've done in the postseason. I don't necessarily believe that the Bills have, because look at who the Bills have lost to. They lost in as you mentioned, the AFC Championship back in 2020 to the Kansas City Chiefs, who have been the model of success in the NFL. 2021, same thing. They lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round, a game that they led with 13 seconds to go in the 4th quarter. And then they lose to a Bengals team, as we all know here in Cincinnati, that has been very tough. They went to the Super Bowl, went to the AFC Championship. So it's not like they're losing to the Tennessee Titans.
Right.
It's not like they're losing to a Mason Rudolph's Pittsburgh Steelers team. I just have a very tough time believing that the Bills are going to lose this game. And I don't understand where the flack that they don't do well in the postseason comes from.
If you're wondering about Lamar Jackson,
it's not been very good.
0-1 in 2018 threw 2 touchdowns, 1 pick in 1 game. 2019,
when he was the unanimous MVP,
they lost. He threw 1 interception, 2 touchdowns, lost a fumble. Lost a fumble the year before, too. And then in 2020, they won a game. So he does have 1 playoff win.
Right.
They lost the second game. He did not throw a single touchdown in those 2 games.
He has
threw
not
2
been good.
interceptions. So career 1-3, 3 touchdowns, 5 picks, 2 lost fumbles.
He has not been good. I think this could be a Lamar Jackson coming out postseason, though. He's never he's not those games you mentioned. He's not the player that he is now. He wasn't as good of a passer as he is now.
You're right.
He still doesn't get enough credit for how good of a passer
You're
he is.
right. He's become a very good passer.
Right. Everyone did the tongue-in-cheek thing. You've got a running back playing quarterback. And that might have been true back in 2018. He couldn't throw the ball very well. He throws the ball very well now.
Yep.
He throws a very good ball. He's going to win the MVP. He's going to win his second MVP. Go look at the list of guys that have won 2 MVPs. He's still underrated as a passer. I think this is going to be a Lamar Jackson coming out postseason.
Okay. We do have so much to talk about with this whole Nick Saban, Bill Belichick thing. Tell me if you guys agree with the following. Casey, I'll start with you. Of the 3 guys that stepped away yesterday, all Hall of Famers.
Yep.
All 3. Pete Carroll, Nick Saban, and Bill Belichick. To me, it sounded like 2 of the 3 still want to coach. The only one I didn't get that feeling was about Saban. But I think Pete Carroll, even though they said he's going to be a consultant, I think if somebody came after Carroll to coach, he would still coach. It's a feeling I got just watching him in the press conference. And certainly Belichick wants to still coach.
Right.
You agree with that?
I agree with that.
Okay. So if you agree with that, Rita said that 28 of the 32 teams in the NFL ought to be looking at a guy like Bill Belichick. Does Pete Carroll fit into that bill?
Ooh, that's a good question. Pete Carroll, I don't think he fits. I mean, 28 out of the 32 teams, I think, is a bit of a stretch. There's eight head coaching vacancies so far. 25% of the league is looking for a new head coach. That's Seattle, so you got to take that out of the equation. Patriots, Commanders, Falcons, Titans, Raiders, Panthers, Chargers. And out of those teams, I think maybe the Falcons and maybe the Raiders, Panthers, Chargers maybe, Commanders. Like, those are the teams I think would want Pete Carroll. I think all the teams should look at Bill Belichick. Maybe not the Titans because they just let go of Mike Vrabel, and that's more of the Patriot way. So, yeah, I mean, I think Pete Carroll should be sought after, but I don't think he's the long-term solution for any team because both those guys are past their prime. They're, I think they've, I wouldn't say lost a step, but they are certainly not with the new age of the NFL. And I think that's very clear with just how the seasons have turned out for both teams.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. It's interesting you bring that up because we only have a few minutes before VOCH is going to join us, so we can get into all of this after he's with us. But you just said something to me that I was thinking about as all this was unfolding last night and then this morning. When we talk about new age of the NFL, and I think Brian Billick sort of hit on this a little bit in our visit with him 2 days ago. And he made the tongue-in-cheek reference, if you ever had lunch with Sean McVay, well, you're the guy that everybody wants to hire, right?
Right.
And so when I look at the new age of head coaches in the National Football League, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, you could have the Zach Taylors. You could have the Brandon Staley's, right?
Right.
And we could go on and on and on and on and on, right? The
Yeah.
Josh McDaniels. You know, all these uber smart, creative, blah, 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 right? Mm-hmm. Are any of those guys out there better than Pete Carroll? Are any of those guys out there better than Bill Belichick? Is Mike McDaniels? Would you rather have tomorrow getting your team ready for a playoff game? Pete Carroll or Mike McDaniels? Would you rather have tomorrow Pete Carroll or Brandon Staley? Would you rather have tomorrow Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick, or Zach Taylor? Point is, I'm not asking you to name the answer to all those three, but you
Yeah.
get the point I'm making here is that who are these new age coaches and what have they done?
No, I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean, like I said, I think most of the teams should be looking at Pete Carroll. But, again, if you're following the trend of the NFL, winning, like the successful winning, sorry, let me try to speak here, the successful path to winning.
That was a Freudian slip there, Casey.
That was.
To winning NFL games is going younger. I mean, you just look at Houston, D'Amico Ryans. Zach Taylor's an example of this. Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan. The list goes on of young coaches that are being just very successful. Mike McDaniels is another guy. I'm not saying that Pete Carroll isn't as good as those guys, but the NFL needs to learn to adapt quickly. And with guys like Pete Carroll, guys like Bill Belichick, I feel like they take a little time to adapt. And they aren't as quick to the times. So that's my only hesitation with those guys. And also the fact that Pete Carroll, if he's going to be coaching, it's probably not going to be for very long. They probably want a guy that, if they get a guy, will be a long-term solution.
Sure.
Same thing with Belichick. They're going to want a guy that can be there for a while. And to me, it sounds like Belichick only wants to break the winning record and then get out. That's what it sounds like to me. I don't know that. I don't know what his desires are, but
Yeah, I don't know how much ego Bill Belichick has, so that seems like an ego thing. But
I
I'm
don't know.
not saying you're wrong. Listen, if you want a take here, if you're asking me,
Yep.
if I'd rather have Pete Carroll or Bill Belichick coach my team next year, I wouldn't even think twice. I'd prefer Pete Carroll. I think Pete Carroll has shown more of an ability to adapt to the current age of the NFL. And I get what you're saying about what have these young guys done as opposed to the tenure. Well, if
And I don't know how much I did. And I'm just going to say I want to qualify something here for a second. When I'm talking about young guys, I'm talking about guys that have been hired the last 2-3 years. I mean, McVay's still the youngest coach in the league, but he's been around for a while.
Right.
Kyle Shanahan's a young man, but he's been around for a while. I don't look at those guys as the new age guy. I'm looking at the last just couple of years, the McDaniels, the Zach Taylors.
McDaniel's been around for a while.
How long has he been a head coach?
He's been a head coach not for 2 years, but like.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about within the last 2 or 3 years, young guys that have been given head coaching jobs.
Well,
Who's standing out?
Well, the reason that they're doing that is because of the success of Sean McVay and
I
Kyle
know.
Shanahan when they got those young positions. Listen, I think Bill Belichick is the best coach the NFL has ever seen. That being said, I've had this take for a while now, it feels like the game has gone past him. I would even go a step further than that. I'd rather have Zach Taylor be the head coach over Bill Belichick. And you guys might think I'm absolutely crazy for saying that. And I understand why you would think that's crazy for saying that. But, like, I haven't seen Bill Belichick succeed without Tom Brady.
Can I ask you something?
Okay, but can I ask you this? What has Zach Taylor done without Joe Burrow? And don't tell me about. Don't tell me. Hang on. Because we'll be very careful.
Like
wait a minute.
Very good
be
logic
very,
to defeat my
very careful
take.
in what you're about to say, because there was one season that Brady got hurt and did not play the entire year, and some guy nobody ever heard of named Garoppolo comes walking in and wins the division title.
Matt Castle.
So, don't say, what Zach Taylor did with Jake Browning. Don't throw that at me, because Belichick's done better than that. He got him to the playoffs.
How do you think Zach Taylor would do with Bailey Zappi every day?
Did you really say just a second ago
I did.
you would take Zach Taylor over Bill Belichick with Joe Burrow as the quarterback?
Correct.
Just like he had Brady.
Correct.
You would rather have Zach Taylor as your head coach than Bill Belichick.
Those were the words in that exact order. That was the cadence I used when I said the take, and I stand by it.
Okay.
And the reason I seriously just think
I can't wait to clip this out.
that Bill Belichick.
No, I don't want any part of this.
I know I'm going to have
no,
to.
because it makes me sound like I'm bad-mouthing Taylor.
No,
and
you're
I'm
not bad-mouthing
Taylor.
Taylor. You're not bad-mouthing Taylor. He's bad-mouthing Bill Belichick.
I think that Bill Belichick is as stubborn as he gets.
He went to the playoffs with Mac Jones.
Yeah. But listen, I just think that I think the game is past him. I think that whoever hires Bill Belichick, because he will get hired by someone, they will not succeed. I don't think Bill Belichick will succeed in this league wherever he goes. And you might call me crazy. We'll see how the tape unfolds in a couple of years. Would I rather have Pete Carroll than Zach Taylor? Yeah, probably. Because I've seen Pete Carroll adapt to the times. I've seen Pete Carroll succeed in other ways. I've not seen that with Bill Belichick.
You're the person who says if you don't have a quarterback, you have nothing, correct?
Yeah.
So what does Bill Belichick have at quarterback? He's got two guys that can't play.
He's got a Pro Bowl quarterback.
He's got two guys that can't play the position. He has two guys that can't play the position.
All right. Well, we're gonna continue all this. I'm gonna ask my main man.
We'll see.
My main man. There he is, looking good. Is that camo you got working there today, VOCH?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just born and raised as a Mississippi character. I moved out to Texas. I just brought some things with me, and I always rock my camo as an ex-hunter, current fisherman. You know what I'm saying? So I like to throw a little bit in there. Can I just say one thing about the topic that y'all,
Absolutely. I was going to ask you your thoughts of it.
Defend me, VOCH.
So I think the league needs young coordinators, right? But there's something about an old coach that just needs to balance all that out, right?
Yeah.
So you need the young coordinator to be up at 5 a.m, to be competitive, to have all that energy and to grind tape and to figure out how to beat this defense or that, whatever. But it's something about having a 90-year-old coach that, you go, oh, I've been in this situation 5 times and I did that. Or I was here and I did that. To your point about Shanahan's been coaching for like 20-something years or whatnot. So
right.
I mean, he's been coaching since he was 19. So he's not a new dude, right? But Mike McDaniel is going to be in a situation that he's not prepared for. And that's just something that you get with Pete Carroll that you get with Belichick. Something else that you get with a guy like Belichick. Belichick can make a top whatever defense it is right now is a solid looking defense out of 11 complete strangers. Christian Gonzalez is hurt. What's my man Judon, the pass rusher? Matt Judon is hurt. And they still have a very reputable defense that you can look at and be like, hey, man, that defense can hold Josh Allen or that defense can hold, Justin Herbert, top tier quarterback, to 15 points. All right, Bailey Zappi, go get us 20 and we'll win. I would love to just run down the game logs, run down the numbers and stats and see, man, how many points would I need per game to make this Patriots team like a winning football team? And I bet you'd be surprised about the amount of times that the defense did their job, but Mac Jones just simply could not.
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, I know. You just brought up something, VOCH, that I was going to ask you about from the get-go anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Look, some of the comments made this week by Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, in reference to his head coach, Mike McCarthy. You predicted that the Cowboys were going to get on a late season run here. They only had 2 games. They were a little off. Outside of that, you could argue they've been the best team in the NFL, at least over 15 games for this entire season. They're division champs. They will play this weekend against Green Bay, and we'll get to that in a minute. But Jerry Jones is not saying, hey, all is kosher here with Mike McCarthy. We judge this operation on a game-by-game basis, and there have been rumors that Jones loves Belichick. What are your thoughts of this whole thing right now in Big D?
Well, Jones loved Belichick in the 90s when they met at some, I don't know, Golden Corral or something, whenever they ran into each other. So, look, Jerry Jones on the radio every single week. Jerry Jones on the radio every single week, and you just got to listen to Jerry Jones. But don't come out here listening to Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones ain't talking about nothing. But he's told this story before that he bumped into Belichick, and they were at, I don't know, some grocery store or something. He was like, hey, I would love you to be the head coach of the Cowboys. This is when he was leaving the Browns and transitioning into Patriots or whatnot. So, yeah, that is a conversation that came out that they had one time, but I don't think there's a conversation that they had nowhere near 1/11/2024. I mean, and look, let's just be fair here. Jerry Jones loves Bill Belichick. Tom, you love Bill Belichick. I love Bill Belichick. Shouldn't we all love the greatest head coach in all football? So, yeah, sure. To Jerry Jones's point, every game should be game by game. Jerry what I do like about Jerry, and he's an old businessman first, you know. So you need to earn your money. Hey, you did well, but this is a results-based business. So yeah, you went 12-5, 12-5, 12-5. But if we get to the playoffs and lay a stinker versus Green Bay, you got some explaining to do. But I don't think that Mike McCarthy's job is in danger at all. I think Mike McCarthy's done just fine. I think ever since the bye week, what Mike McCarthy's done, just to change his team and change this offense. I mean, Jerry would be foolish to try to move on from Mike McCarthy. To hire who? No. And to your point, right? One thing I really love about Mike McCarthy, right? And it's not a whole bunch, but what I love about Mike McCarthy is when something is wrong, he'll be like, "All right, my bad. That's my fault. Yep. I'll fix it." He hired all his best friends. Jim Tom Sula come in there, Mike Nolan come in there, Joe Philbin come in there. But if it's problems, y'all got to go. With this Kellen Moore thing, everybody's telling Mike McCarthy, "Hey man, Kellen Moore is the new young hot shot, the new young." We just talking about young coaches right now. Kellen Moore is the guy, and we'll go and score 1,000 points, but you put your defense in jeopardy. Mike McCarthy just simply wants you to keep scoring, but slow down a little bit so your defense can fly. But Kellen Moore doesn't understand that because he doesn't have enough time behind the. You know what I'm saying? So now what we see from that, Kellen Moore is down there with them fellas. I don't want to talk about Kellen Moore no more. He's not a Cowboy. He hadn't been a Cowboy in a long time. But what we see now is we see this offense. We lean on Dak. We're much more tactful with how we take our shots, much more tactful with how I'll just concede and let my defense play. We're much more tactful with, we may not need the league leading rusher in Zeke. We'll just run the ball when we need to run the ball, but let my quarterback work. And Mike McCarthy has figured all this out. So the young guy just needed some balance there. The old dude saw the picture. So I think Mike McCarthy's done a fantastic job, and that's the reason why we're the NFC East champs, better than the Eagles, and we're going to play a playoff game.
All right, VOCH, I got a couple guys in our chat here that are asking me. One Everett says VOCH is going to disappear in that camo in the woods, just like Dak does in the playoffs.
Well, that's cute.
What are your thoughts? I couldn't resist that one. I couldn't resist. That's cute. Has anybody told you look more and more like Cam Newton every day?
Nope.
Nobody's ever told you that you look like. Are you guys in agreement with me on this? Is VOCH looking a little bit like Cam Newton? When Newton wears a hat? All right. Okay. All right. Never mind.
I don't like a lot of people.
Back to your questions. Back to your question.
Sure. I mean, it's a fun narrative to run with that Dak Prescott doesn't show up in these games. But I mean, name the quarterbacks that have showed up more than him in these playoff games. I mean, let's just look at Dak and his playoff wins. I think he's up to 4 right now. I mean, I get it, but look at the quarterbacks that you may like, sir. So I mean, look at these guys like Deshaun Watson or like Lamar Jackson. Look at a guy like Justin Herbert. Trevor Lawrence seems to melt his way out of things all the time. So I think it's cool to say, yeah, Dak Prescott is going to lose a playoff game, right? But that's because it's fun to hate the Cowboys, and I'm not telling you, commenter in the chat box here, I'm not telling you to not hate the Cowboys. This your world. This is a free country. God bless America, dog. You can hate the Cowboys all you want. It's fun. I understand that because I hate the Eagles, so I enjoy hating on them, right? But Dak Prescott, like, you would forget that Dak Prescott won a playoff game last year on the road and blew out the Buccaneers, or him beating the Seahawks, and him beating the Lions in the playoffs. It's just you only remember when Dak loses in the playoffs, and that's part of the game. I get it. So Dak can go out there and win a game this week. Dak can win the game next week, but if he loses in the championship game, that's all you're going to remember. So just remember that Dak has more playoff wins than some of your favorite quarterbacks. And
when you look inside some of the numbers don't lie. I mean, he does have a couple of playoff wins. He has 4 losses, but he's thrown 11 touchdown passes and thrown only 5 interceptions. He has not lost a single fumble in a playoff game in a total of 6 games. So we were just given some of the numbers a minute ago of, Josh Allen. He might have a couple of more wins, but he gives the ball away a lot. Not as much as he does during the regular season. Lamar Jackson's numbers, meanwhile, 2 touchdowns in his playoff career, 5 interceptions, and has lost some fumbles. So I think you're right. I'm curious. Why do you think? Do you think it's because of the attention given to the Cowboys? Because they get more attention than anybody in the league. I was trying to explain to our audience last week, and you touched on it earlier. There is no other city or fan base where the owner comes on and is interviewed after every game, has his own local radio show. Okay, we don't have that here with Mike Brown. They don't have that in Baltimore. They don't have that in San Francisco with Jed York. They don't have any of that stuff going on. They have it going on in Dallas. Do you think that Dak takes so much heat because it's the Dallas Cowboys? When in reality, if you look at the numbers, his numbers, as you just said, are a lot better than a lot of other guys who people say good things about.
Well, Tom, I think people like they like to be hurt. People like to be tortured. People like to be captors. You know, like, first of all, I love social media, right? I think Twitter is one of the greatest things to ever come out in the history of man, right? But Twitter doesn't hurt my feelings because I don't follow people that I don't like. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So if I go, man, boy, they talk about the Cowboys every day on First Take, I'm just simply going to not watch First Take. It is what it is. But people love to be hurt. People love to be captors. Stockholm syndrome. They love their captors, right? So if you're if you're an athlete and you're on the bench and you may not have a good relationship with whoever it is starting, you may hate that person, right? If you're a non-popular person and there's a popular person and you're not popular, then you may, you may say you may have a little extra hate about that popular person. If you get to know that popular person, you may love that. Dak Prescott's incredible. He's a good dude. Met him in real life. He's bigger than me. He's fantastic. You know what I'm saying? He loves the fans. Great dude. Walter Payton Man of the Year last year. And fantastic quarterback, right? Fantastic quarterback. I don't know where's this note. I mean, it's Pat Mahomes does it, to where, all right, we want all these 24-year-old quarterbacks to be Super Bowl champions right now. Most of your quarterbacks end up in their greatness when they're 30, right? Yep. Move all the freaks, right? All the freaky quarterbacks away, right? Most of your best quarterbacks, like Tom, really didn't turn to Tom until he was 30. He wasn't great when he was winning those Super Bowls. That was defense. That was Brewski and that was Harrison and all them. But Tom really turned into just a dude when he was 30. Roethlisberger, Breeze, Peyton Manning didn't win a Super Bowl till late in his. Those dudes become that way later. Yep. Dak Prescott, who's had a great young career, that he's never going to get credit for. And now he's in his 30s. He's 30 now. He's a dad. He got dad strength now. And now he's even better than he's ever been. But nobody wants to acknowledge that because of just that, hey, the popular guy is getting the attention and my team is doing this XYZ. That's the reason why the Cowboys are America's team, right? I don't proclaim, that I don't force nobody to go watch the Cowboys. But the fact that you say, well, Dak Prescott, how about this? What did Skylar Thompson do last year in the playoffs? I bet they wouldn't know. What did the Seahawks do? What did the Seahawks do in the playoffs the year before that? Y'all don't remember, huh? How about this? Joe Burrow goes to the Super Bowl, right? But people don't necessarily remember that the Bengals really had a hard time on that run. Evan McPherson was the hero on that run.
You're right.
But hey, Joe's
correct.
But Joe's in the Super Bowl, so hey, let's roll with these guys. Jimmy Garoppolo, he won a damn playoff game throwing the ball 6 times, Tom. But Jimmy Garoppolo's a playoff quarterback because he's gone to a Super Bowl, right? So it's all about optics, and you guys in the chat should feel bad that you just believe whatever the machine feeds you. So,
well, it's only one guy, so I don't want to say everybody in here. Now, let me ask you about this matchup this week. Look, the Cowboys are clearly the better team, but we know once you get in the postseason, anything can happen. And they are facing a guy in Jordan Love who you could make a very strong case is right there with Dak for the hottest quarterback right now in the National Football League. I mean, this guy's on a roll. What worries you about Green Bay, if anything?
Jordan Love is incredible, but it's more so the run game with me. And I don't even have that much fear of the run game because that's another narrative that the Cowboys can't stop the run. The Cowboys really had a bad day versus 3 running backs: James Conner, James Cook with the Bills, and Miles Sanders with the Panthers. But besides that, there's a long list of top tier running backs that couldn't get 60 yards rushing versus the Dallas Cowboys, and that's Gibbs, Montgomery, that tandem. Guys like Christian McCaffrey, guys like Breece Hall, these great running backs. Those guys didn't have great rushing days versus the Cowboys. DeAndre Swift, guys like Saquon Barkley. Do your homework, guys. So there's going to be this narrative that the Cowboys can't stop the run, but that's okay. They do. All they got to do is deal with Aaron Jones. They just got to deal with Aaron Jones because the Cowboys' superpower on defense, this is where this all coming together, right? The Cowboys' superpower on defense is to make you throw the football. Jordan Love is incredible. But there's not a quarterback in this league that I'm afraid of their passing game because I know what my passing defense can do. Whether it be Gilmore and Deron Bland at corner, whether it be what my safeties are, whether it be Micah Parsons and Tank Lawrence pass rushing, I feel good about my passing defense. So all the Cowboys have to do to win is they got to score on offense, in which I think we will because the Packers defense is horrendous and all their metrics are in the 30s. We have to score points and make them throw the football. If they throw the football, then the Cowboys get to move on to the next round of the postseason. And the best part about all this time is the Cowboys are better than them. The Cowboys are a more talented team than them, but people can call me biased Cowboy fan all they want. Cowboys at home are a totally different team, and the Cowboys got 2 home games. So I'm going to be incredibly positive about these next 2 Cowboy games.
All right. VOCH, you are the man. We can't thank you enough for joining us. You're always there. You always answer the bell. You answer the call. Did you have something for VOCH real quick?
I had one quick question, if VOCH will let me here. You mentioned Evan McPherson. Your guy, yes, Brandon Aubrey, makes every 50-yard kick in the world. Who do you think's going to have a better year? Let me change my question. Who's going to have a better postseason? McPherson 2 years ago or Aubrey this postseason?
Man, McPherson went on a run, dog. McPherson went on a run, and so I'm going to say McPherson. And it's probably because I've seen him do it already, but I just have a feeling that the Cowboys at home, right? So these next 2 games, I just think the Cowboys are just going to do well enough on offense to where we just wouldn't need Brandon Aubrey to just save us in that way. Yeah. This offense is different. This CeeDee Lamb is ridiculous. Dak Prescott with CeeDee is ridiculous. Jake Ferguson is emerging. I just think that the Cowboys offense will do enough to where we wouldn't need Brandon Aubrey in that way. But McPherson saved the day many of times. I don't think the Cowboys are going to be very much in that position. Now, if we get to the conference championship game and we play San Francisco and we got to go to their house and we're going to be a different offense on the road and that's one of the top defense in the league and, points may not be coming all that often, then maybe I'll change my answer and Brandon Aubrey would be a hero. But as of now, Evan McPherson deserves a statue.
Well, he's a great story. There's no doubt about that. And what he's done with Dallas this year is just mind-boggling. And VOCH, Happy New Year, my friend. Thank you for your time and your expertise as always. We'll be dialed in on the Cowboys against the Pack this weekend.
Appreciate it, Tom. Let me just tell you what I like about you before I go, man. When I come in, you have faith in me as a content dude to not just talk Cowboys. Like, we'll talk about coaches. We'll talk about what happened with the Bengals. You know what I'm saying? Some people bring me in and I only get to talk about Cowboys and offensive line. I think I could talk some other things.
Dude,
but appreciate you for
you made your mark, VOCH, last year on this program. When you were the guy, we wouldn't even be having this discussion right now here in Cincinnati about what they're going to do at right tackle with Jonah Williams undoubtedly leaving, okay? Yeah. We wouldn't be having this conversation about the right tackle position if Duke Tobin had listened to VOCH Lombardi and said, boys and girls, the guy's right up the road in Columbus, Ohio. The answer to all of your problems is DeJuan Jones. You said he was the best offensive lineman coming out in the draft. And when that cat took over at right tackle in the first week of the season till he got hurt, that dude was on it.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much. I just, I don't get this a whole bunch. People just, say I don't know nothing. Who is this guy? Does he coach for the league? Is he a GM? Why should I listen to this guy? So thank you very much. I don't get that a whole bunch, but thank you very much. Appreciate everybody watching live right now.
The future's so bright, VOCH has got to wear shades. That's a big league Mario Kart poster back there too, by the way.
I got a lot of stuff back here. Got some Mario Kart right there, Outkast right there, Jules Winfield from Pulp Fiction. I had to outlaw Josie Wales down there, but something happened to him. But yeah. I just a little bit of me. This is about to be totally different. I'm an adult now, so I'm about to move to Dallas and buy a house. So
there we go.
Ultimately,
Congratulations.
Hey, content does okay these days. You know what I'm saying? Appreciate you.
Amen. We wish you nothing but the very best, VOCH. Thanks for your time, man. Have a great weekend.
Thank you very much. Y'all be cool.
All right. Godspeed ahead. Love that dude.
Always love an Outkast fan. Always love an Outkast fan.
He's the best.
He is the best.
He's the best guest we get on here.
By far.
No
it's
doubt.
Not close.
No doubt. Brings the energy.
Casey, you and VOCH were the only two. Actually, I was included in this group as well. We were like, Voices off in the wilderness. Have you ever been to the Grand Canyon?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, can you imagine standing South Rim and with every breath of air you can get, scream as loud as you can, right?
Right.
You're really screaming at no one except God above, right?
That's right.
That's right.
We were doing that last year for the Bengals regarding DeJuan Jones.
Yeah. I mean, I sat here, pounded my fist on this
You
table
did.
for a few guys like Sam Laporta and DeJuan Jones,
Yep.
and they go on to have fantastic rookie seasons. Both got hurt at the end of their rookie years, but it is what it is. I really like VOCH a lot. He's not just a really good Dallas Cowboys content creator, like he said. He knows a lot about the NFL. He studies the game very closely. He's a great talent evaluator. You just go look at some of the stuff that he's predicted throughout the years, like wanting Micah Parsons, stuff like that. And you just have a lot of respect for the guy because he's right most of the time.
VOCH is a great talent evaluator. You know who's a bad talent evaluator? Bill Belichick.
Correct. Not very good.
By the way, a couple super chats. Tom by Sir Boy. The Ravens have no chance. I disagree. Let me read the second one. Mr. Mo.
You're right. They don't this weekend because they don't play. Go ahead.
Mr. Mo, the attention, the fans, their owner calling themselves America's team, Skip Shameless. The list of reasons to dislike the Cowboys goes on. That was supposed to be for VOCH. If VOCH is still listening, that was a super chat for you.
He is. He's on some big league operation somewhere.
That was a super chat by Mr. Mo. Listen, I actually don't hate this Cowboys team. I used to hate the Cowboys. My dad still likes the Cowboys a little bit. He's a Bengals fan. Tom does like the Cowboys a little bit. So, but I think Dak's awesome. I think Dak's an underrated quarterback.
That's
just
fair.
because every once in a while it seems like he has a bad game, but so does every quarterback ever. So I'm a Dak guy. CeeDee Lamb has been quietly one of the. Has he been a top 3 receiver this season? He has, right?
I'll double check, but he's been very close to that.
Almost certainly a top 3 receiver in the NFL. So, I like the Cowboys. The only thing about the Cowboys that worries me is that they don't seem to have a run game. Tony Pollard, I know that was supposed to be their guy, and that's the one exception, I would say, to Reed's take of running backs can be replaced on a whim, because Tony Pollard certainly is not.
Do you think it's because of Tony Pollard, or do you think it's something else?
It's probably something else, but
Okay,
but Tony Pollard certainly gets some blame. No,
You think Zeke would have done better?
I think prime Zeke would have done better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, am I allowed to say that? I mean, what are we doing here? That's why you say some running backs are better. They can't be easily replaced.
He is the first guest, VOCH Lombardi is, that has ever, and maybe ever again, will make reference to the Stockholm Syndrome. That was big league. I mean, he just slipped that right in there, and off we go.
That's good.
I mean, that's big league stuff. That's why we have VOCH on the program. All right, we got lots to get to today. We're going to play the 1 through 14 game. We got to talk about, when we first come back, let's talk about Xavier, because we have some people in here that want us to talk. We won't spend very long, because there aren't that many people that want us to talk about Xavier. There really aren't. We could talk about UC for hours, but Xavier, not so much. Is that fair to say, Elliot?
It's fair to say.
Okay. All right. I think I just hurt once again. And by the way, somebody took issue. Casey, look up the numbers for me, please. Somebody took, or read, somebody in the chat, and I'm not going to go back and look for it. Somebody took issue, and this goes to show you how on his game VOCH Lombardi is. Okay? He made reference to what the Bengals did on offense during their run to the Super Bowl. Okay? In the playoff games, right?
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, it was Tennessee, the year they went to the Super Bowl, right?
Raiders, Tennessee.
Tennessee, Chiefs.
Yep.
Okay. How many offensive touchdowns did the Bengals score in those 3 games?
I'll have that answer.
So he
for
looks
you in
it
a
up,
minute.
Casey, while you take it away. And we got lots to talk about still coming up on the show. Why are our numbers down today? They're really down today. Any explanation? Because it's a bright, sunny day and people want to get out and mow the lawn in Hamilton? I mean, what's the deal?
We didn't have a show yesterday, so we probably lost a little bit of viewership there. I think the Bengals fans that are in the chat maybe didn't like Defabo being on here because we just dislike the Steelers, and that's fair. We dislike the Steelers like the Cowboys dislike the Eagles. Everyone has their rivals, and that's okay. But I'm looking up how many touchdowns the Bengals had in their 4 games in 2021 postseason.
Yeah, it's not as many as you might think. He was spot on what he said there. It was the defense, and it was the heroics of Evan McPherson, which led the Bengals. In the Tennessee game alone, Burrow got sacked, 6 times, 7 times?
9 times.
9. Forgive me. There's good offense.
Wasn't the greatest performance.
All right. Casey, take it away.
All right, well, the Bengals Bearcats report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data center world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and
productivity.
You can visit encore.tech. The path to innovation begins here. And let me tell you about this lovely bottle of water right here. Pahhni water, made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. Uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that other brands use. The result is a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pahhni Water at PAHHNI water.com to see where you buy this great tasting water. Get your coffee from UDF, technology solutions from Encore, and drink lots of Pahhni water.
You want to take a guess on how many touchdowns the Bengals had in their 4 games in the 2021 postseason run?
I'm going to say, whole postseason, including Super Bowl?
All 4 games.
I'm going to say 7.
I'm going to say 8.
Elliot was right. 7.
Boom.
Wow.
Yep.
It's not a lot.
2 in each game, 1 in the Tennessee Titans game.
Yeah.
So,
It's not a lot.
7. So 7. I don't know what to say.
That's fair.
People are right when they belittle, when they try, and it is an effort. It is an effort to belittle what Joe Burrow has done, and they are right that their offense hasn't been a major portion of the Bengals' 2 playoff runs that they had over the past 2 years. But I will also say, if you look at the regular season, those are the best 2 quarterback years in Bengals history. In back-to-back years, Joe Burrow broke the passing touchdown record, franchise passing touchdown record. In back-to-back years, he threw for 4,500 yards. So, it goes both ways. You're playing really good teams, still won the games. So, I don't know. I mean, they scored 26 points against the Raiders, 27 points against the Chiefs. They scored, they average in the low to mid-20s over those runs. So, it's not like they're not scoring points. It's just Evan McPherson did have a big portion. He made some big-time kicks. So,
I got an off-topic question for you.
Sling it my way, Big Pimpin'.
Whose side are you on in the Whitlock versus Stephen A?
Oh, that was
Did you see that?
Insane. That was crazy. The lead up to that segment, I don't know if anyone watched that video clip.
I saw it.
He's like, I gotta apologize to everybody, and just list off everyone. Just start slandering his name. I told my pastor.
Stephen A is the best. Stephen A is just
I do like Stephen A. Tom, to answer your question, the Bengals, you want to guess how many touchdowns they had in their 2021 Super Bowl run in their 4 games?
4 games.
4 games they played.
I'm going to say they scored 8.
They scored 7 touchdowns.
Okay.
Two in each game, 1 against the Titans. So
that's not exactly what you would call high-powered offense. 14 points out of your offense in 3 games each.
Right.
And then 1 touchdown in the other is not big-time offense. So whoever took offense to that, VOCH was spot on. How many field goals during that run, if you don't mind me? I know it's throwing you on the spot. And you got to go dig back through the box scores.
12 or 13.
How many field goals? So if they scored 7 touchdowns, I think it's safe to say that McPherson probably did not miss an extra point. So he scored 7 points there alone. Okay?
I'm not doing extra. Obviously.
No, but I'm going to play this game for a minute in my head. If they scored 7 offensive touchdowns, 7 times 6 is 42, if my Anderson High School math is correct.
Correct.
Okay?
14.
He kicked 14 field goals?
2021. 14 field goals attempted, 14 field goals made.
7, 8.
I mean,
8 in the first 2 games.
But he kicked 14 total in that postseason run.
That's what I'm seeing, 48 points.
So the last time I checked, 14 times 3 puts him at 42. Right?
Correct.
Okay. What am I? Yeah. So
he scored
times 4.
14 field goals.
Okay. So, come on. he scored almost as many points as the offense did.
Yeah, he's also not kicking. He's not kicking 85-yard field goals. So like the offense has to get him in position to kick. So the offense gets him ready to kick, and there is validity to say like, hey, they're not scoring, they're not punching it in, but still, I mean, he's a bunch of those kicks. You remember the 50-yarders? He also kicked a couple 30-yarders. Like the offense has to get you in position to kick the ball. But yeah, I hear it. Listen, they're true. These are true facts. They did not score a whole lot of touchdowns. Couldn't get in. Had some red zone inefficiency. If they were a lot more efficient in the red zone, probably none of those games would come down to the wire. They'd probably be Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, they for sure would be Super Bowl champs.
But like I said, in the 2 years,
so he scored 49 points in that postseason run. I mean, VOCH couldn't be more spot on.
Correct.
He scored 49 points in that postseason run with his right foot, and the offense scored a total of 42 points. I mean, that is mind-boggling to me. I can't believe it's the first time I've thought of it that way. That is absolutely mind-boggling.
But like I said, like those are facts. Like these are facts that they didn't score a whole lot of points in the postseason. But as I mentioned, the 2 years that Joe Burrow, those 2 regular seasons, if you want to go to the regular seasons, those were the best quarterback years in Bengals history. Most touchdown passes in each year.
We're not talking about that, though.
I know. I'm also saying, like, in an effort to say that the Bengals during the postseason didn't have a whole lot of offensive success. They also, I mean, that was a high-powered offense those years. So
they did not score a single point in their final 6 possessions of the Super Bowl. Not a single point. They'd have been Super Bowl champs. Okay. Anyway, that's old news.
Mr. Mo said do defensive touchdowns in the postseason. Did they have defensive touchdowns?
I'm not sure.
I don't think they had a single defensive
What is
touchdown.
going on, by the way,
Hover.
before we get to
Same
some of
Hover
this
master.
other stuff, what is going on in the chat today?
With
I
what?
mean, there's this whole
VOCH is
thing
hitting on
about
Molly.
Burner, what?
VOCH is hitting on Molly.
Molly?
VOCH and Molly, they're hitting it off.
That means he's hitting on you.
That's not me.
All right, so listen, VOCH was on it. By the way, if he's still watching, apparently he's in the chat right now. VOCH, you were on it. I'm not surprised. He's on it on everything. We'll circle back with him as a Cowboys if he has time. Move on in the playoffs, which I think we all agree they are going to do against Green Bay this week. But no, what is going on here? It was something about burners and all this other sort of nonsense. What is happening here?
Well, apparently Tom, what happens is I give these burners attention. Reed made a video yesterday.
How do we know they're burners?
If you read
do you think a guy is in the name of Drew P. Mr. Balls?
Or what about Harry? What about Harry? Do you think Harry's a real person, Tom? Look in the chat right now and read Harry's name for me. I don't think you're going to.
Big Richard Ryder.
Yeah, I see, Tom. And what happens is
VOCH says Molly was hitting on him, by the way. Go ahead.
So what happens is Reed made a video yesterday. There is a burner in our chat, maybe. We don't know for sure. His name is Sean.
Sean Connor.
And Sean's a very loyal fan of Chatterbox. We love Sean.
Yeah.
But Sean also has our emails, and he sends Reed a lot of emails. He doesn't email me. He only emails Reed. And he sends him very personal things that really a Chatterbox fan shouldn't know. But he knows. So Reed has been investigating. We've all been torn apart about this.
Okay.
And Reed made a long video yesterday, posted on the Chatterbox account. We've come to the conclusion that Sean is Paul.
Paul Fritcher. There's some evidence.
Big League Paul.
There's some damning evidence.
Boy, Big League Paul, because we're going to circle back here in a second. Big League Paul went off last night.
I saw it. It was a quote. It was a quote tweet. So that original tweet that you were talking about, it was from last year.
Okay, but it's his words.
But he retweeted it.
Okay, all right. He went off about people leaving games early. Now, my understanding is you said you did not leave early because, I mean, we gave Xavier credit. I mean, the one thing, you can say they have their issues in this regard, that regard, whatever it might be. Every team has issues. But one issue that Sean Miller does not have is his teams fighting and competing. They played literally to the very final second yesterday and got within a three-pointer away from tying the game when it looked like they were dead in the water with about 2 minutes to go.
It was so they took the lead 52-51 around the 17-minute mark, 16-minute mark, and then UConn went on a 25-10 run, something along those, to the point where there's 4 minutes to play. UConn makes a shot to go up 14. At that moment, there was a mass exodus. People were leaving. And I turned to my wife. It was the first time that I'd taken Mariana to a game at Cintas. And I said, if UConn makes one more shot, we'll leave. Let's see what happens right here. And, as you mentioned, Xavier hits a shot. Xavier goes to the line, hits 2 free throws. Xavier hits a shot. They go to the line. They hit 2 free throws. And next thing you know, you're looking up at the score. It's a 2-possession game with a minute to go. Next thing you know, another UConn miss. They miss the front end of a 1-and-1. Xavier goes down. They make it a 1-possession game with 10 seconds to go. And for the most part, Cintas was completely empty other than sporadic fans, and then the entire student section was there. So I understand, like we talk about this all the time, that if you want to watch a game, you probably want to see it to the end. But it's also your time. It's your money. You can do what you want with your ticket. You can do what you want with your time. So if you want to leave, go ahead and leave.
Yeah, I don't know why people make such a big deal. I mean, I remember having this debate with Paul when he was still here before he quit. Is who cares? I mean, really, who cares? Like you just said, if a guy spends his money or a gal spends her money on a ticket and they want to go watch the first 10 minutes of the game and then go out to a nice dinner with a bunch of friends, why do you care? Who cares? What's the big deal? People are allowed to go as they please, leave as they choose, whenever they want. They bought the ticket to the game. They can boo. They can cheer. Right?
Tom, you are absolutely right. You can do with whatever you want with your money. You can do whatever you want with your ticket. You can do whatever you want with your time. It was a little, as a Xavier fan, it was a little sad that this guy is shooting a free throw with 10 seconds to go, a 1-and-1, and it's a 3-point game. And it would have been very nice to have 11,000 Xavier fans getting in that guy's head cheering. It was very quiet.
That's a fair point.
For that front half of the 1-and-1. Very quiet, and he knocks both home, and it's a 5-point game, and then the game's over.
Okay.
So it would have been nice to have 11,000 fans cheering for this guy to miss a free throw. I forget the UConn player's name. He already missed a couple free throws in the game. I think he hadn't made one to that point, but he sank 2 to ice the game.
All right, let's get to the Xavier thing for a minute, because in the back half hour, we're going to get into the 1 through 14 of chances of reaching the Super Bowl in the NFL. You guys were both there.
That's right.
Your overall thoughts, macro point of view here, about Xavier and the game last night.
Listen, I've been to a lot of games at Cintas. I thought that the crowd wasn't as engaged as they've been in years past, and I think part of that is the reason that Xavier is 500. Now they're under 500. They've only finished a season under 500 one time in the last 40 years, and they are in danger of doing that again. This is a team that is just inexperienced. I think there is some talent there, but they're simply just not as skilled as a UConn team. And they fought. They certainly fought. And that's the one thing that I've always liked about a Sean Miller team is they fight.
Yes, they do.
They go all the way down to the final second, down 14 with 4 minutes to go, and they fight to make that a 1-possession game in the final 10 seconds. They just got inexperience, and they're just not last year's team. And I don't know what Xavier looks like. I still think this team can win some big games in the Big East. They showed it, right? I mean, if you take a Houston team down to the wire, the number 2 team in the country. If you take a UConn team down to the wire, number 4 team in the country. Both games were at home. But if you play with those teams, then you can play with anyone. I think Kirby put it out there. We have in our title of this show, Xavier Stinks. Yesterday, we are applauding Texas. Yesterday, we're applauding Texas for hanging in with the number 25 team in the country, or UC hanging with the number 25 team in the country at home. But today, we say Xavier Stinks.
All right, who wrote that headline?
Not me.
Wasn't me.
What?
Yeah. I mean,
what's
just
wrong?
a stray.
Did we not like the headline?
Similar to civilians here in Hamilton, we're used to strays as Xavier fans. So listen, it's just this isn't going to be a team. This isn't a tournament team, but I still think that they're a team that can be feisty enough that can give you hell any given night.
it's going to be a war to try and get above 500 for Xavier. They've got a brutal schedule. I mean, the Big East is no joke. They're the second.
And they played
best.
a very tough out of schedule.
Yeah,
and then they lose to teams like Delaware.
So this is no knock on. It's a young Xavier team outside of my guy Quincy Oliveri. I thought they played okay. There's a lot of defensive miscues for Xavier that happened. Like there was like 4 layups where UConn just ran straight to the basket. No one was in 5 feet of defending him. So I think the defense wasn't great. I thought the 3-point shooting was a pleasant surprise for X. I thought they played a little bit better. They didn't shoot great. It was like 38% or something. And it is refreshing to see a team that can make free throws. If you make foul shots, you give your team a chance. There was by no means should Xavier have been in that game towards the end, but they were because they make foul shots. And that's why I disagree with Wes Miller when he comes out and he says free throws don't matter. It's brutal. But listen, I don't think Xavier's the best team in the world. They're certainly not making a tournament, but obviously they're good enough to beat UC. They're a decent team. So they still have a lot of future. They've still got a great head coach. This season's just going to be a one-off time. It's going to be the first year in like 40 years they have a losing record, I would bet.
If they do
if they do that, I think
it's one time in 1995.
That won't happen. They won't finish with a losing record.
I know. The
Big
East is tough. Listen, Tom, I'm looking at the stats right here. UConn shot 45% from 3, made 11 threes of 24 shots.
Yep.
They shot 55% from the field. Xavier shot 35% from the field.
Yep.
And still, this was a 5-point game.
Well, but I want to stop you there for a second because I watched the entire game from start to finish last night.
Shot a lot more free throws.
Okay. I never felt like Xavier was really in the game, as weird as that sounds. I mean, and maybe you would disagree. To me, as I said in the monologue, it would be a case where you kind of all of a sudden would say, oh, man, all of a sudden they're back in the game. We better get it together here. And wham, off they go. 25-10 run, right? They go up 14, right? And then Xavier all of a sudden comes back. They go on a 11-2 run. And they're up by 9, or they're up by 12. And then credit to Xavier, all the credit in the world. They kept fighting and they came back. This wasn't like the UC game the night before, and I'm not drawing a parallel to which team is better because of the way the game was played. Right. But they were 2 very different games that were decided by less than 5 points. The UC game by 1, the Xavier game by 5. But the UC game was literally back and forth. Lead change, no more than 2 or 3 point lead. Sure. Whole game, right? The Xavier game never had that feel.
This is why I said that it felt like there was a little bit of juice not in the arena. It was loud at certain moments, but I felt like it wasn't Cintas Center of years past. So 2 different moments that I bring up. Xavier's down 30-21 at the 8-minute mark in the first half. They then come out of the under 8 timeout. And they tie the game up 35-35 with 2.5 minutes to go. And all the energy's in the building, right? We're cheering. Yep. Everyone's standing up. Let's go, X. Come on, Muskies. Dan Hurley calls a timeout. Out of that timeout, no juice. And what happens? UConn goes on a 7-2 run to wind out the rest of the first half. All right, so we start the second half. Xavier starts storming back. They take a 52-51 lead. All the juice is in the building, right? Everyone's right there. Dan Hurley calls a timeout. And instead of keeping that energy through the timeout, instead of keeping that energy when play starts back up, it was all gone. And UConn takes a 25-10 run. So there was 2 runs. UConn weathered the storm both times, and it was too little too late.
Yeah. You know, it makes me think, and we talked about how UConn is the only team in the top 5 that has not lost this week. And you know, due to the transfer portal more than anything else, we see it in football, but we really see it in basketball, where you only need a couple of guys to make a huge difference in your team. I don't know if there really is a clear-cut 2 or 3 or 4 teams that are better than anybody else anymore. There were times UConn last night looked great. Now, they've had a lot of turnover from last year. They've got some guys back. They've had some transfers in. They got some guys playing in the NBA. They got some guys playing overseas from a team that won it all last year. They've got a rock-solid group. They're very deep. But that team didn't look like a world beater to me.
Well, that's college basketball
nowadays.
It is college
bad, but the point I'm making
point?
is I think this year, maybe even more than last year, when we saw Purdue get bounced, right, by a 16 seed as a number 1 seed, right? I think that there's a really strong chance that you're going to see this. Just look at Kansas this week. They got a homer call to beat TCU at Fog Allen. Then they go on the road. UCF beating Kansas? I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Right?
No, listen, there's no doubt about it. Listen, we do this every single year, and you're absolutely right. College basketball, it's a much different sport than college football, to where teams on any given night, they can lose. Even the best teams in the country, like the Houstons, like the Purdues, like the UConns, like the Kansases. That happens. You look at last year, UConn, for the first 2 months of the season, looked like by far and away the best team in college basketball. Dominating everybody, winning by 20-plus points against other ranked opponents at neutral sites. Then January hits, and they lose like 5 out of 6 games. And everyone's like, this UConn.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
And then what happens after January? They roar back, and they look like the best team from pretty much middle of February to the end of the year. They are dominating everybody. But they still have that taste in the back of your mouth like, man, they lost 5 out of 7 games.
That's right.
Can I trust this UConn team that did that? Despite them, for 80% of the year, dominating.
And in fairness to them last night, they were dominated on the offensive glass by Xavier last night.
Xavier did a good job.
And UConn was without its best big man.
Yeah.
They did not play in the game. So you're not getting a true look at who they are and what they are. But the bottom line is they come into a tough place. Boy, I mean to tell you, I don't know what has gotten into my main man, Everett.
Oh, no.
He says, are these guys just going to say during the show Burrow did nothing during their run to the Super Bowl? Do you think he's trying to get clicks here, or my bait a little bit, Everett? Because I love Everett.
Everett's like me. He when people say something bad about Joe Burrow, it rubs us the wrong way.
Nobody said anything bad about. We just gave Reality 101. The stats.
I get it.
In 4 games 2 years ago through the Super Bowl, the offense scored 7 touchdowns, producing 42 points in 4 games. That's 11 points on offense per game, not even that. And Evan McPherson accounted for 49 points in those 4 games.
He was amazing.
That's all we're saying. That's it. Nobody uttered the words, Burrow didn't do anything to help him get to the Super Bowl. Nobody said that. And then we have your good friend Mouse Cop talking about us alienating fans. By the way, we're talking about Xavier. Have we bad-mouthed Xavier here today?
Well, the title says Xavier stinks. The title says Xavier stinks.
Okay, but actually in the show.
No.
I have not. I'm pro. I was at the game cheering on Quincy louder than anybody. I was watching.
You like Quincy. You like Quincy
I love Quincy. That's my favorite player. I might get a jersey of Quincy. But I was watching the game last night. It is funny to watch Hurley coach on the sideline. That guy's a lunatic. The officiating wasn't great yesterday, but he literally complains after every single possession. He complains that there is a foul or a missed call on every single possession. I thought he was going to get – there was a point in the first half where things were getting testy. Him and Sean Miller. Sean Miller was angrily calling refs over to him, and Hurley was just screaming absurdities at people. But it was very, very funny. There was a technical called on UConn, but not on Hurley. I thought Hurley was going to get one. It was a good game, though. It was a fun game to watch.
It was, and I can't wait to go back. I love Cintas. Listen, the one thing about Cintas Center, we got tickets for $15, concession stands, get a beer and a hot dog, $10. Great place to watch a game.
Great place to watch a game. Okay.
I'm surprised you didn't show up, Tom.
You know, it's funny you say that because I was saving this for the show. So I told you that my wife and daughter were going out. They were going to play pickleball, and they couldn't find a court to get on here in the whole town. That's how popular pickleball is. All these new indoor joints, completely packed.
Pickle Lodge in Westchester.
Like 3 or 4. They tried there. Could not get it. So so they ended up going out to dinner with one of my daughter's friends and her mom, live in the neighborhood. Good for them. Okay, so Dad's going to go out and return some Christmas presents, right?
Okay.
So I am no more than a mile away right there in one of those little plazas over in whatever it is, Oakley, or you know what I'm talking about over there. And I'm over there returning Christmas presents, and it's about 7:15. And I want to go into a bookstore because there's a book I'm looking for right now that I was trying to find. So they got that Joseph Beth Books right around the corner, whatever it is. So I go in there and I look at my watch. They didn't have the book, and I come walking out, and I'm thinking, man, it's 7:30. I'm a 2.5-minute ride away from the Gardens.
I was there.
And I don't mean the Cincinnati Gardens. I mean Dana Gardens.
I was right there.
And I'm thinking, man, I ought to surprise my homeboy Reed and just shoot down there right now real quick. Casey, did you go?
No, I did not.
Did you go to the game?
No.
Okay, you were talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I was. What do you mean talking?
I
about
thought you
it?
were
I mean,
talking yesterday about maybe going to the game.
No.
Okay.
I decided to go work out. So.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've gotten a lot of compliments in the chat today about how handsome you look, by the way, in that black sweater, and
I
so you look
appreciate
like
that.
something out of GQ magazine.
Gentleman
Thank
quarterly.
you, Chad. I appreciate that. Yeah.
I think he looks like Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. Wow.
That's that sweater that Steve Jobs wore in that famous picture. Fair enough. All right, Tom, let's do your top 14, your power rankings.
All right, here we go. Now, this is, for those of you that weren't with us, we talked about it yesterday, then we had the Wi-Fi problems. I am going to give you my playoff rank, and this is, okay, and we'll start at 14, right?
We'll work our way down.
Of what I think a team's chances are, ranked 1 the best chance, 14th the worst chance, of getting to, not winning, getting to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Okay?
Your number 14 team.
Here we go. Green Bay. I don't think they have any chance in Dallas. Do any of you guys have any disagreement with that whatsoever?
I don't think they have a great chance in Dallas, but you know what? I threw this tweet out there, and it is a little to spur people up. But you talk about the take I had about Bill Belichick earlier. I'd rather have Jordan Love than C.J. Stroud. Jordan Love has better stats this year than C.J. Stroud. More passing yards, more touchdowns. He has a better completion percentage. He does have more turnovers, but in the last 8 weeks, Tom, Jordan Love, 17 touchdowns, 1 interception. 17 touchdowns, 1 interception. It's incredible.
It is incredible.
He's a gamer. He's their franchise quarterback. They found. I don't know how the Green Bay Packers continue to do it, but that's 3 in a row where they've got a franchise quarterback. 2 Hall of Famers. I don't know if Jordan Love's going to be a Hall of Famer, but he's certainly a guy that you can rely on going forward.
Okay.
They're the youngest team that ever has made the postseason.
Case, you have any problem with that? Green Bay number 14?
I don't think I have any problem with that.
Okay. They're starting on the road. They're playing a team that's great at home, so we put them at number 14. My good friend David Troller says Pittsburgh has to be 14. We'll get to them in a minute. David, I don't agree. I put them at 13, though. But I tell you, what I would have done was, in all sincerity, I did this 2 nights ago before I knew the weather. I would have moved Pittsburgh way up.
Really?
I really would. I think that, I wish I wish I'd have looked at these again, because we were supposed to do it yesterday. So I sent this in. What's today? Thursday. I sent this in Tuesday night.
Yep.
I think Pittsburgh can win the game this week. Now, could they win again after that? If they had to go to Baltimore, division game.
Yeah.
They've got a fighting chance. I mean, those division games in the postseason, man, are a whole different animal. We saw that with Baltimore here last year. Baltimore had no business being on the field with the Bengals. And it took a Sam Hubbard 100-yard return on a fumble at the goal line to win the game.
Right.
So, anybody who thinks the Steelers could not win in Baltimore, I wouldn't predict them to win in Baltimore. I wouldn't bet them to win in Baltimore. But I got them at 13. I don't like that pick myself. So if you don't like it, I have no problem whatsoever. Casey, you think that's where they belong?
I'm actually kind of with you with the weather thing. I also don't think this might be my biasness towards TJ Watt, but even without him gone, I mean, he was talking up Nick Herbig and Alex Highsmith. They still got Larry Ogunjobi and Cam Hayward. Like that, those guys, to me, they can do enough to disrupt Josh Allen. And if they're having to run the ball all game, if they're asking Josh Allen to, 1, throw in this wind, it's not going to go well. 2, if they know that the run is going to come, I feel like the Steelers will do a much better job at defending the run when they know it's coming due to the weather. So that being said, I think that the turnovers will be a problem for Josh Allen. You know he's going to at least give you one. And in terms of the Steelers, if they can protect the ball and make it a close-scoring game, I think they have a really good shot. I think they have a really good chance, Tom.
I agree.
So
I agree.
I would say they're a little low. I don't know if they're too far off from that 13 spot, but yeah, they're a little low for me.
I want whatever you guys are smoking. I think the Steelers are by far the worst team in the postseason. By far. They're going in there with Mason Rudolph. They're going up to play possibly the hottest team in the NFL in the Buffalo Bills. They're doing it without their best player in TJ Watt, who they're 1-10 without. So I think by far the Steelers, they're 11-point underdogs, 10-point underdogs up there in Buffalo. And you guys are right about the weather. You guys, sure, it's going to be cold, but I do not see a world in which the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Buffalo Bills this weekend. I do see a world in which Jordan Love beats the Dallas Cowboys because the Cowboys have had problems in the postseason, because the Cowboys have had problems with the Packers in the postseason, and Jordan Love is as hot as a quarterback can be right now. So I think the Steelers, I think there's a huge difference between the 14th and the 13th team, and the Steelers, I think, are the worst team by far.
One of the greatest observations ever made in the history of the chat.
What'd they say?
The Real Spirit Cat 1 said Casey looks like Steve Jobs and Arn Anderson made a baby together.
Casey, you know who Arn Anderson is?
No clue. not a single clue, but that's okay. I'm sure that's a good combination, right?
It is a great combination and rock solid observation. Okay.
12.
All right, number 12, Tampa Bay. I know the Bucs have a home game this weekend. And look, 4 straight years going to the postseason, you got to give it up, whether it was Brady that was there, now Baker Mayfield, who's had a really nice year. Todd Bowles, finds a way to keep them going. He's gotten hard to believe that Bowles has gotten that team to the playoffs the last couple of years. All the injuries, all the turnover, especially at the most important position on the team. But they're going to play Philadelphia this week, and I just, for some reason, as bad as Philly has been, I think Philly's going to show up for this game, and I think they take it to Tampa Bay.
It seems like a game like that the Eagles are just like the Chiefs in that we keep waiting for them to show us what we saw last year. That's what we keep waiting for the Eagles, but we haven't seen it yet. What I have seen is Baker Mayfield play very well at home. And am I trusting Baker Mayfield? No, but this Eagles team, they are reeling. They are reeling right now. I cannot trust Philadelphia in the way that they've played in December. One team is, I think, 5-1 over their last 6 games. The other team's 1-5.
Yep.
So I think the Bucs at 12? That may seem fair because now you're getting into the teams that can win. But I very easily could see the Philadelphia Eagles losing on the road this week, and then they're going to have a very weird offseason. If they do not beat the Bucs this weekend, they're going to have a very weird offseason because it's like, what do we do with Sirianni? Like, this team, we talk about how the Bengals always struggle at the beginning of the year. What do you say about a team that struggles down the stretch? So 12 is okay. I'm not mad about the Bucs being 12, but I could see the Bucs upsetting the Eagles at home this weekend.
Okay. You?
Yeah. For me, I think the Bucs are probably, if not, I don't think the Packers are the last place team. They're probably 13 for me. I would have the Bucs in the last place spot.
Really?
Yeah. I as much as I like Baker, in a must-win game with their season on the line, they scored 9 points. They didn't score a touchdown.
The only reason I don't have them 13 or 14, and you weren't in here, you stepped out for a minute, I would have switched where I am with the Steelers because I think they got a better chance in 13. The only reason the Bucs are at 12 and not 13 or 14 is because they're playing at home.
That's fair.
That's the only reason. That's it. No, nothing else separating.
All
right, number 11.
Oh.
Some people might think that they should be higher up the list.
I certainly
The LA
do.
Rams. They're coming in on a roll. They've got a quarterback in Matthew Stafford who has proven he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Jared Goff is, for that matter, too. Mm-hmm. By the way, this is just off for a second, but I don't know if you guys saw that story where a bunch of Detroit fans are urging people not to wear Matthew Stafford jerseys to the game. And there are some bars that are barring people from coming in if they have a Matthew Stafford jersey. Dude, I got to tell you. I can't tell you how many Detroit Lions games with Matthew Stafford was a quarterback there. You are never going to meet a better guy in your life. That's number one. B, no human being in the history of sports laid it out and laid it on the line more for his team during his career than Matthew Stafford did in Detroit. Bad teams, he was hurt all the time and played through injuries. For anybody in Detroit to come up with this completely harebrained idea is completely brain dead. And in Stafford, as always, he puts himself away from the fray. His wife came out and basically said yesterday, you know what? I'm really sorry some people feel that way because we love Detroit and we love the fans and loved our time playing there. Shame on them.
I agree. It seems like it was. Remember when Andrew Luck retired? The news broke, and then the Colts fans booed him out of the stadium in his final appearance on the Colts field. Kind of feels like that. Just disrespectful. The Lions. I mean, let's be real here. They're a horrible organization, an absolutely woeful organization. Arguably, there is a strong argument you can make that they are the worst organization in sports. So to say I'm going to boycott Matthew Stafford jerseys, given all that he's done, a Hall of Fame career in your city, is a joke. The Rams, in their last 7 games, have scored more than 30 points 4 times. They've scored more than 25 points 2 times. And the other game, they beat the 49ers 21-20. And you can say, well, that game doesn't mean anything, and that's fine. But I'll say this. The offense is dynamic. The offense in Los Angeles is unbelievable. Puka Nacua has been their best receiver this year. Cooper Kupp is a top 5 wide receiver. He hasn't really shown it yet. I'll tell you what. I'm all in. I'm all in on the Rams. I would say they are a top 5 team for me.
Really?
Not
top
bottom 4.
5?
Yeah, I don't know about top 5. They are playing well. Listen,
they have to win 3 straight games on the road.
We get to
that
this,
ain't happening.
When you get to the postseason, 12 out of the 14 teams are legit. They're either rattling off games left and right, or they have some sustained success, like the Philadelphia Eagles, like the Steelers and stuff like that. So all these teams are legit. LA Rams at 11, I have no problem with that. I think every time that I watch the Rams play, I forget how good Matt Stafford is.
Yep.
Despite his age, he's still slinging it. He's still slinging.
Yes, he is.
He looks like he's 29 at times.
Yep.
Like he looks young the way he plays. And Sean McVay, I think the world of. I think he's an incredible coach. I could see the Rams making a run. I could see them losing by 20 in their first game. I think it could go either way. I think 11 is about right.
If you look at those 4 teams right there, one of those teams is not like the others. And that is the Los Angeles Rams. They have been a very good team for the second half of this season.
Yes,
I think the Bucs have 2. Bucs have 2.
Okay, that's fine.
They've won 5 of their last 6 games.
Can't argue with it.
Casey, you're a big Lions guy. Can the Rams come in there and beat them?
No. I think the Lions should be here at 11, to be honest with you.
Ooh.
And that might be a hot take for you guys. But the Lions, I don't think you guys understand how important Sam Laporta was to that offense. Now, they've got a lot of other pieces there, but Sam Laporta wasn't just some tight end that was catching a lot of passes and their number 2 receiving threat. He was also doing a phenomenal job in the run game, sealing edges off, allowing Jahmyr Gibbs to get those large rushes. To me, that was so deflating for them to lose that piece in the offense. And I also think too, it's just a matter of time for Aaron Donald to just wake up and have a run of his life, right? And that interior pressure, Jared Goff, not a fan. He's not a fan of pressure. And if Aaron Donald takes over this game, I think it's a wrap completely for the Lions. I really do. And I don't know. I think I'm leaning towards the Rams being – they should have been much higher. And wherever you have the Lions, I think they should be a little bit lower. But that's just my thoughts on where.
All right. Well, again, I had to take into account who was at home, who was on the road in some of these picks. And so if you notice, of the bottom 4, 3 of the 4 are on the road. And again, this is getting to the Super Bowl. Green Bay, Pittsburgh, and the Rams would all basically have to win out on the road to get to the Super Bowl 3 games. And I don't see it happening for any of those 3 teams. Okay.
To the top 10.
Now we get to the top 10. And number 10, the Fighting Dolphins. I should probably have them somewhere a little bit lower, meaning 11, 12, 13. But they're the Miami Dolphins. They still have a lot of really good players.
Yeah.
Now they're beat up, especially as we mentioned yesterday or 2 days ago. They're down. They've lost their top 4 linebackers for the year. None of the 4 will be playing in this game this weekend against Kansas City, although we know the Chiefs have not been world beaters. This is another one of those things where you look at it and you say, boy, the weather supposed to be brutal, and I mean brutal. It's a night game. They're talking about it being wind chill somewhere around 10, 15, 20 below zero.
Yep.
What does that mean? And we know both teams like to sling it around. Right? Chiefs are at home. I put the Dolphins 10. Thoughts on that?
If this list is based on what teams can win the Super Bowl, then
get to the Super
Bowl, then I think 10 is absolutely right for the Miami Dolphins because, like I said earlier in the show, to think that this Miami Dolphins team, despite them beating Dallas a couple weeks ago, well, they haven't looked good for the past 2 weeks, and now you're going to go on the road to Kansas City where it's negative degrees out and try to play this frou-frou offense. Now, I do think they run the ball better than people give them credit for, but I cannot imagine the Miami Dolphins beating KC this weekend. And if they do, with everything, beating Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid when they're at home in this weather conditions, I'll take everything I said back about the Kansas City Chiefs this year. And I'll take everything I said back about the Miami Dolphins that I've said this year too. I don't think the Dolphins have a prayer this weekend. So right in the 10th spot feels fair. I would have actually, I did list out personally 14 teams. I had the Eagles at 10. I don't believe in the Eagles at all.
This is my biggest wager of the NFL season. I think the Dolphins are going to get hammered by Kansas City. Again, I mentioned this stat yesterday or 2 days ago whenever I did it. 0-9 in games under 40 degrees. It's supposed to be 8 degrees. So I will take the Kansas City Chiefs in cold weather against Tom's turquoise and whites.
Teal
and whites. I think this is a fair spot.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. I think the Miami Dolphins, they've already played each other once, and I know that was in Germany, and it just didn't look good. Their offense looked really anemic. And
they had a chance to win that game, though.
They did, but
Chiefs' offense looked bad too.
Yeah, really bad.
Both teams' offenses looked really bad those games. If you're gonna put a gun to my head and ask me which team's probably gonna win this game, I'm gonna go with the Kansas City Chiefs just because of Patrick Mahomes. But I also think too, like the Chiefs have a better line in terms of run blocking, and if they're gonna be running the ball a lot because of the weather as well. I'm going to side with them. They're going to be able to get the tough yards. I know Miami's got a really good rushing attack.
Yes, they do.
Very explosive. I just don't know what sort of game plan they're going to go in with, because if it's a game where they can't throw a whole lot and they're forced to run the ball a lot, will the Chiefs be able to stop that effectiveness? Probably. So that being said, I'm going to probably say that this is a fair spot.
I think the Chiefs won that game because of a defensive touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. I think the Chiefs only scored 2 offensive touchdowns.
It was 21-0 at halftime out there. You're talking about the Chiefs Dolphins game. It was 21-0 at halftime. It looked like the Chiefs of old. Then the second half they didn't do anything. So
okay. All right. Well, we'll see. I mean, that one has, and by that, that's behind the paywall.
There's some good games.
And Lindsay, if you want to jump in on any of this, we bypassed your Steelers. You are more than welcome.
Well, the Steelers, I don't know. I guess personally I would have maybe put them a little higher, but I don't have as much confidence in them, I guess, as I should. But I know the chat might kill me for being
They're
a Steelers
not going to kill
fan.
You. That's okay. That's okay.
I don't know. I guess like you said, the weather does make a difference, and not having Watt, in my opinion, might also impact it. But I don't know. I might have put them a little higher, but I also don't think they're really honest, so it wasn't that bad.
All right. Fair enough. There we go. All right. Number 9, the fighting C.J. Strouds. They have a game at home. It's going to be a really tough game this week. That's why of all the home teams outside of Tampa Bay, AFC is a better conference in the NFC. I think it's going to be tough for Houston to beat Cleveland and then have to go on the road and win at wherever to get to the Super Bowl?
I think the Texans, I'm torn between what I think of them. On one hand, if you want to put a parallel to them to other teams, on one hand, they look a lot like the Buffalo Bills, a quarterback that can take over a game and can win it single-handedly in CJ Stroud. They do some nice things on defense. Like, on one hand, this is a team that you absolutely should fear if you're going to play them in the postseason. And on the other hand, they look a lot like the Green Bay Packers. And I've thrown the Jordan Love, CJ Stroud comparison. Very young team, a quarterback who's red hot. So where am I at in there? Are they the Green Bay Packers? Are they the Buffalo Bills? I'm a little closer to the Green Bay Packers. I think that this is going to be a very good game between them and the Cleveland Browns, but I think a tough, hard-nosed team like the Browns are going to be tough to beat. I like the Browns to cover. So, 9 fits for the Houston Texans. I wouldn't have them any other place than number 9.
Interesting. I like the pick. I think number 9's fair. I think they are capable of winning a couple playoff games, though.
I agree. I fully agree. Because it is similar. Like, this is the story, and we like to use the past to think what the future is going to be. And what's the comparison that the Houston Texans have been thrown out there? The 2021 Cincinnati Bengals, right?
Yep.
They might be.
And it could be. You're right. You're absolutely right. Young, phenomenal quarterback charging a team in the postseason. Could be.
All right. The fighting C.J. Strouds. You've liked them all year long, Case.
I like them a lot, Tom. I had to take that the winner of the Browns in the Houston game will end up being in the championship game.
Okay, that's a fair.
And I do think that Houston reminds me a lot of the Bengals of old. Not that old. 2021 Bengals. Sneaky good defense, a really hot quarterback, some phenomenal receivers that we just don't even talk about. Nico Collins has had probably one of their better receiving seasons for a Texan that we can remember besides Andre Johnson. That being said, I think that the Texans are a little low on your list. I really do. I thought you would have them a little higher just because of the Ohio State guy. But I know how you feel about the other team, the Browns, which I'm sure we're going to get to here shortly.
Oh, we're a while from getting to them.
Oh, are we?
Well,
again, my thoughts are if Houston wins this game, I think they can make it to the championship game.
Okay.
I really do.
All right. Okay. That means they'd have to go theoretically to Buffalo, to Baltimore. Can they win in those places? Okay. Number 8, forgive me. I have the Battling Brownies. I should have had them higher than that. Now, again, I did this a couple nights ago. Nothing's changed in this regard like it did with Pittsburgh and the weather and all that. I would have put Cleveland ahead of Philadelphia here if I had a chance. I would have put Philly at 8 and Cleveland at 7. The reason I think Cleveland can make a good run at it here, at least the midway point of all these teams, yes, they would have to win all their games on the road. So, therefore, I think it makes it very tough for them. Otherwise, I'd have them probably in the 5 hole.
Yeah, Cleveland is a team, like I said, they're playing with house money. For the first time, a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns is playing with nothing to lose, and it's showing. And this is a physical team. They've got a great defense. They've got a great pass rush. All the things that can really frustrate a young quarterback in C.J. Stroud. Do I think the Browns are Super Bowl contenders now? No, I don't. I really don't think that.
Wow.
Because I think at the end of the day, the Cleveland Browns are still the Cleveland Browns. And until they get that opinion out of my mind, I'll continue to think that way. But I think this is a team that can win a playoff game. I think they will win the playoff game. I'll be putting a sizable wager on the Browns to cover this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Joe Flacco.
You predict the Brownies were getting to the championship game months ago.
And I'm going to hold with that. I think this is a wrong slot. I think the Browns are top 5 too. So I think the Cleveland Browns are going to win this game, and I think they have a very good chance at getting to the AFC Championship game. I think Joe Flacco is elite, despite what some people think. I believe Joe Flacco is undefeated in the first round of the postseason.
He is. Hasn't played in a decade. Hasn't played in
a decade, but he is undefeated in the first round. So I will take Joe Flacco and the Fighting Browns. The defense obviously is arguably the best in the league. Jerome Ford hasn't been great, but the tandem of him and Kareem Hunt are efficient enough in the red zone to be scary. So I really, really like Amari Cooper, Dave Njoku. The team's stacked. I think this team goes to an AFC Championship.
All right, Casey, and we're gonna roll through the top 7 once we get. But I just want to get your thoughts on the Brownies because you've been killing them for 2 years.
Oh, like I said, Tom.
Brownies.
Like I said about the Texans, whoever wins this game, I think has a really good chance to make it to the championship game. I really do. I think Cleveland has the best defense in the league at the current moment. I like Joe Flacco, kind of like I like Josh Allen. I think he can be very effective in a certain play style, which the Browns are very conducive to that. Lots of running, then throwing play actions, throwing bombs over people's heads. I think the emergence of finding out they have David Njoku has really helped them out too. Amari Cooper, a top 10 receiver in this league. I like the Browns. I like their chances. I just have a feeling that Houston's going to get it done. But I think this is a fair spot. If you're going to put Houston at 9 and then the Browns following that, I think that's a fair spot. I think that's a fair placement.
Tom, Haro wants to know, would the Browns be higher on your list, or would they be better in general with Baker opposed to Flacco?
No, I like Flacco. I like his experience. I like
agree.
the fact that he's been around the block. It's been a while, as Reed mentioned, since he's played in a postseason game, but I like the veteran leadership there. All right. Top 7. We're going to blow through these.
Well, here's what we're going to do.
Short.
We're going to do 7 and 6, and we're going to tease top 5. We'll do that tomorrow.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
7. Who is it, Casey? I can't even remember. The Battling Lions. They have a chance to have a couple of home games, right?
Yep.
They have a quarterback who has I'm not a huge golf guy, but he's won a Super Bowl, right?
Right.
They gamble a little bit too much for me, and I'm a big gambler fan in terms of being aggressive. There are times where I think they're too aggressive, especially on fourth downs and things like that. But you got to love the riverboat gambler kind of way that Campbell handles the whole thing. Sure. They believe in him. The fans, the place is going to be absolute. I mean to tell you, there will not be a better home field advantage this weekend as far as just the environment is concerned than it's going to be at Ford Field this weekend in Detroit. That place is going to be rocking.
I think, 7 for the Lions. I'd probably have them a little, closer to 10.
Okay.
Because I do think that they are playing the Rams, and I think the Rams are playing very good. And like I said about the Cleveland Browns, until I see the Lions overcome what they've been in the past, until I see them really assert themselves as anything other than the measly Detroit Lions, it's hard for me to imagine them having success in the postseason. It really is. Jared Goff has been inconsistent at best this year. He's looked very good. He looked like a quarterback that has taken a team to the postseason or to the Super Bowl, and at times he looks very bad. I think this is, it has all the storylines in the world. I think this is going to be the most marquee game this weekend. But as for where you have them on the list, I would have them. I wouldn't have them at 7.
Okay.
Yeah, I would not have them at 7 either. I think they're far worse. This is Detroit. This is one of the worst franchises ever. They've lost one of their best offensive players, and not to mention they haven't really beaten a ton of good teams. So they have a head coach, Tom, that goes for it on a 2-point conversion from the 10-yard line. I have a hard time believing that guy. When I close my eyes,
yeah, I hear you.
I have a hard time believing
in the hot tub.
Dan Campbell
in
the hot tub when Dan Campbell hoisting up a Lombardi trophy. I think the Lions are far worse.
Okay. A lot of people are screaming at me already, Casey, because I have at number 6.
Reed?
The Eagles.
Yep. And a lot of people are screaming at me, how can you have the Eagles ahead of a number of these teams? And look, I totally get it. I get what you're saying. I'm sure you'll probably end up being right and I'm being wrong. But I think there's just something to be said for having been down this road before. I think that early in the year they proved what they are capable of being. I know they've been nicked up, but they still have for the first time, though, I think there's some locker room friction here, and I think A.J. Brown's right in the middle of it. I think there's some stuff going on there with him and Jalen Hurts that's not good. And so, but I still think Philadelphia look, of any team that you have to play on the road in the opening round of this playoffs, okay, of any of the teams, you would want to be Philadelphia going to Tampa Bay.
Right. That's
rather
the
than anywhere else,
winner.
even
That's
more
the
than
easiest
Houston.
winner, right.
You'd rather be going there than Buffalo. You'd rather be going there than Kansas City.
Yes,
right? Okay, so they have a chance in this first game. If they can find a way to get it together, look, do I believe Philly could go down to Dallas and win a second game, divisional game? I very much do. So a lot of people yell and scream at me about Philly. I get it.
This is where Philadelphia as a city can start to deteriorate a team. is because like we've seen with the Phillies in the postseason, when things are going high, the city's loving it. Things start going bad, there's a lot of pressure playing in Philadelphia. And when the Eagles lose 5 out of 6 games after starting the season 10-1, things are just spiraling out of control.
Yeah.
This defense, that was the pride of the Eagles last year. The pride of this team that went to the Super Bowl last year was how good their defense was. Listen how many points they gave up down the stretch. 42 points to the 49ers. 33 points to the Cowboys. Okay, those are both very good teams. Whatever. You give up 42 and 33 to the best teams in the NFC, so be it. But then they give up 20 points to the Seahawks and lose. They gave up 25 points to the Giants, 35 points to the Cardinals.
Yep.
27 points to the Giants, 52 points to the Giants in 2 of the last 3 weeks. And you expect this team to make a serious run at the Super Bowl? I can't see it whatsoever. This team, I've said it now for 2 weeks, they do one thing well, and it's about to be outlawed. And that's the tush push.
I think they are too high, unfortunately, as well. I don't think the Eagles are a bad team. I think, like Tom, I think they are capable of beating anybody. But unfortunately, they are by far, and it's not close, the coldest team in the postseason. By far.
Yes.
It does not fare well.
Yep.
It does not fare well.
Okay. Casey, you have any thoughts on that before we wrap it up today?
I think that they deserve to be in this bracket, the 10-6 bracket. I think they're a little high, but all it takes is one good right game. It takes one good game against Tampa, and then they might be all the way back. I mean, that's funny how momentum kind of works in that way. And I'm not predicting that to happen necessarily. I don't think that they'll just all of a sudden turn it on after winning a game in Tampa, and who even knows that they'll win that game. But I was just looking at what it took for them to beat Tampa last time. The Eagles had to get 130 yards rushing with DeAndre Swift. They're running all over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I think that was without Vita Vea. And I believe Vita Vea is playing this go-around. I think a lot of people are predicting the Eagles to go in there and win against Tampa. I don't think it's that simple. I don't think it's that easy.
No, not the way they're playing, especially.
Yeah, especially right now. But for them to be at 6, I think it's a little too high, but I don't think they should be any lower than 10.
Okay. All right, that's fair. And I had misspoke. I meant to say that Goff had gotten a team to a Super Bowl.
Right,
He's done that. They lost to, I think it was New England that year, if I'm not mistaken. And he threw some big picks in that game,
that was
especially
like 13-3. What an ugly Super Bowl.
Yeah, terrible.
All right.
Okay, now tomorrow, Marty Brenneman's going to join us. No box lunch today.
No box lunch.
I don't know if we were making up for yesterday.
Do it tomorrow.
Do it tomorrow. Anything else tonight? Anything we got going on, Case?
No.
We're good.
We're good.
Okay. And do you and Mrs. Tissett have everything straightened out, by the way? Is there something going on there?
Is she in the chat today?
No, I just want her to know I'm not woke. She called me woke one time, Tom, and I want her to know
you are
not
woke.
You are woke.
Okay, that's how we'll end it. Elliot is woke. Tom?
I just want to make sure that Jacob's mom is not wrapped up in some issue we have around here.
No, we're good.
Because we love her son.
We do love Jacob.
Right?
Elliot is woke. I am not. There's no evidence that says I'm woke.
Okay. All right. We thank everybody for joining.